it! Just do it!
Before I get started, I first have to thank PowerSquire for the suggestion on today's video. As always, if you have any thoughts or want to hear me talk about something specific, let me know in the comments. I talked a little bit about starting a conversation in my last video. Do these 3 things to overcome social anxiety. I'll leave a link to that video in the description if you are interested. But I think there is a lot more to be said on the topic of getting a conversation started. I decided to split this topic up into 3 phases: before starting a conversation, the action itself, and after completing the action. I think all 3 of these are distinct components and deserve to be talked about individually. Additionally, I want you to keep these 3 themes in your head as I talk: practice, patience, and purpose. If you're watching this because you feel like you struggle with starting a conversation, don't expect your problems to be solved instantly. It will only come with repetition and increasing your comfortability. But you are still in the right place, so let's get started. One more thing before I get started. I will be looking at this in the context of walking up to someone who you don't know for the first time and starting a conversation with them. It's likely that the first time is the most challenging. First off, before you can even get in a scenario where you are having a conversation with someone, you need to be able to have a conversation with yourself. Let me explain what I mean by this. You need to know yourself well enough to have your interests and opinions front and center in your head. A good conversation is an exchange of thoughts between 2 people, not just one person asking the other questions. So while you might bank on being the listener, be ready to talk about yourself a little. On the topic of questions, come up with some foundational ones that you can use in any conversation you have. There are tons of resources on the internet to find examples, so use that to your advantage. There are also a couple methods to develop questions on the fly before you walk up to someone, and they all revolve around observation. First, see if something interesting just happened around the area where you and the other person are. This won't happen every time, but if there was some weird event that just occurred, just simply walk up to them and ask them about it. Super easy. Another observation you can make is identifying an interest they have before you make your move. For example, let's say the person is wearing a t-shirt with their favorite music artist on it. That's an easy first question to ask, and by doing so, you've just started a conversation. One final preparation. Do not go into a conversation with any sort of expectations. Do not automatically expect that this person is going to open up their arms to you and talk. They could be having a really bad day and just want to be alone, and that isn't your fault. If it does go wrong, just say, "Have a nice day," and move on to something else. Now, we're going to dive into the action of walking up to someone and greeting them. You might ask, isn't this super simple? Yes, but also no. The part that is most straightforward yet the hardest is actually approaching someone. Whether it be nerves, overthinking, or a mix of both, a lot of times we end up not even attempting to start a conversation. Listen, I really don't have much to say here. It's a matter of doing it or not doing it. If you move your feet, you've done the hardest part. Let's now talk about a couple of specifics. I cannot stress this enough. Smiling is crucial to setting up a good interaction. I am a huge culprit of this, where my normal face makes me look like I'm mad when I usually am not. On the other hand, some people literally never stop smiling. Regardless of which group you fall into, you have to put on a smile. You don't have to be grinning from ear to ear and showing all of your teeth, but at least look happy. Next up is body language, which is almost as equally important. There is a lot you can do to show a person you are interested in talking with them without saying a word. We can tell just by looking at another person's demeanor if they are open to talk or closed off. So if you want to start a conversation, have open body language. When you approach someone, make sure you are facing them head on. Have both of your feet straight towards them so your whole frame is pointed in that direction. Also, make sure you have good posture. If you are slouching, it might be mistaken for apathy, so try to avoid that. Finally, eye contact. Like smiling, you have to be making good eye contact when you greet someone. This is another way to show interest and also confidence. If you can't look at someone in the eye, there is a strong chance they might be reluctant to talk to you. With that said, if you remember these tips, you are in good shape to get into a conversation. For the final phase, let's talk about some methods to holding a conversation and keeping it engaging. The first step to keeping someone else interested is to be engaged yourself. Make sure you have some type of goal or purpose for talking to this person. It could just be, my goal is to talk to this person so I can become more comfortable around people. Keeping this in the back of your head will motivate you to continue the conversation and stay engaged. Now, let's discuss some ways to identify signs of interest and keep the talk going. My first tip would actually be to not say your name when you start the conversation. Open with a question, not, "Hi, my name is." I think that if someone asks for your name after talking for a little bit, it is a sign that they are interested in holding the conversation. My next piece of advice, and this is probably the most obvious one, is to ask some open-ended and follow-up questions. There is no need for an interrogation, but the point of a conversation is to learn, so questions are a requirement. You can easily keep a conversation going by asking follow-up questions to the answers of the person on the other end. If they are not giving you enough material, either your questions aren't strong enough, or they are simply not interested in talking. Also, a reminder that you do not have to agree with everything the person says if you two are talking about a certain topic. People enjoy healthy debates, and someone with a strong opinion is a sign of confidence. Don't be afraid to argue. No conversation lasts forever, and eventually it will be time for you two to go your separate ways. With that said, don't leave in awkward silence. End on a high note when the conversation might still be strong. While this might seem contradictory, it might actually leave the door open for a second conversation or more. Lastly, just be genuine and casual. As long as you act authentically, nothing can really go wrong for you. I've said this in a previous video, but I'm going to repeat it here. People want to talk to you. We are curious people. We like to learn and listen. A lot of people will be more than willing to conversate with you. It is simply a matter of doing it or not. Rejection plagues all of us by giving unneeded stress. But remember, nobody has 100% accuracy, so don't give up after one interaction doesn't go your way. All it takes is a little practice, patience, and purpose. The more you do it, the less effort it will require the next time. Before you know it, you won't have to remember anything I said in this video. Starting a conversation will come instinctively. If you enjoyed watching, please leave a like and drop any thoughts or suggestions you have in the comments below. Also, feel free to subscribe to stay updated on the uploads. As always, this has been Dark Horse, and I will see you in the next video.